Welcome to Spanish Janice. I'm Janice Burt, and today we're diving into conversations that inspire growth, connection, and confidence. You're watching Now Media Television. Welcome, everybody, to Spanish Janice, the bilingual show where I talk business, leadership, and wellness. And my name is Janice Burt. I'm your host today. I am so excited because today I have the one and only, the amazing Manuel Lozano, the founder and CEO of Expo Renta Vacacional, one of the most prominent events dedicated to the vacation rental and short-term rental industry in Mexico. And since 2017, he's been helping bring together property managers, hosts, investors, and global tech and service partners to really push this industry forward. I have had the immense pleasure of going and speaking at one of his events. So Manuel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you. And thank you very much for the introduction.
Now, we had a conversation, I think a couple years ago, where you told me a little bit of your origin story that has to do with the United States. I actually, when you were telling me, I thought it would make for a great movie. It was just so cool. So can you, before we talk about the big conferences that you have now and all of your business savvy, take us back to how this all started.
Okay, so basically the main story behind how it started is because I had actually I had a very good friend of mine who was a property manager in Southern California, and at that time, as you probably know, I was living in San Diego, and basically I was helping businesses to do a lot of direct marketing and direct bookings with, for the businesses. And this person had properties in Cabo. So he called me over. He said, "Why don't you go to Cabo and help me out with my properties over there so we can do direct bookings?" And so me being from Mexico, of course, I couldn't pass the opportunity to go to Cabo. So I went to Cabo, I flew over. And while I was there, I noticed that there were a lot of people who they were doing exactly the same thing that my client was doing, and I noticed that there were very how can I put it? They were not sharing a lot of information. While I was there, I was asking, how do you connect with other property managers? How do you do networking? How do you keep up on updates on information on what's happening in this vacation rental market? Because Mexico at that time, it was growing a lot in terms of tourism and in terms of vacation rental, and I just couldn't figure out why there was no entity who could put together everyone as an association, just like in the States, like the Vacation Rental Management Association. So it was then when I began to notice that there was an opportunity to bring property managers together, to bring OTAs and to bring technology together in Mexico. But I just couldn't figure out exactly how to do it. So I went back to the US. I actually attended a few conferences like Burma and just picking up the phone and calling people and trying to figure out what they were doing. And that's when I noticed that there was a big need for this and no one was actually doing it. And that's how I came about this idea. I said, wouldn't it be great to have this conference like the one in the States or elsewhere in Europe, in Mexico, for Mexico and for the Latin American market? And also I thought about it to do it in Spanish. At that time, there was no conference done in Spanish. I mean, it was, I think, one of I think the greatest thing about this conference is that it's the first conference that is done in Spanish, and still we do have a lot of conferences which are done in Mexico, which are in English, and which is very good because we actually have a lot of speakers coming over. But I would say this is the first conference that is done for the Spanish speaking in Spanish. So that's how I came about the idea of doing this.
And now, I mean, just going from nothing, like having nothing, this is what I think is so amazing about being a human being, and that we're creative and can put together different things. I mean, you have really created something magnificent. I have enjoyed, I've gone to two, actually, one in Cancun and one in Mexico City, and they're so much, not just fun, but informational, educational, rubbing shoulders with all the right kind of people. But even before that, I want to go back to, I mean, you were born in Mexico, but your English is so good. And I know there was a little trip that you had when you were a young man. So tell us a little bit about how you learned to speak English, how you became bilingual, and you were here for a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Sure. I mean, actually, the story is quite long, as you probably heard it before. But I'm just trying to to package for you in a very short way. So, come back from my background is middle class from a Mexican family. My mom, secretary, my dad, pharmaceutical salesman, and in that time when I was young, it was going to Disneyland or going to the States. It was actually really for the wealthy people, right? And of course, I couldn't make it. We didn't have the resources to do it. Somehow, in my teen years, I went on a vacation and I met people in that vacation that eventually, I went to visit them to the U.S. and eventually I actually began to learn the language while vacationing there. During my high school, well, actually during all my elementary school and high school, usually you learn a second language, and the second language that they chose, it was of course English, and you don't really begin to learn the language until you actually submerge yourself in another culture and in another country which they speak that language. So for me, it was it was very important to learn the language in a very good way. It's always your second language, so it's difficult though. But I traveled to the U.S. Actually, I was able to stay there for a year and went to high school there. And a bunch of different stories happened to me while I was there. I was actually in this very small town in Midwest, the U.S., in the state of Indiana. And me coming from Mexico City, I was, the exposure to being in the country of the U.S. and the Midwest. It was very shocking, again, because I was born and raised in Mexico City, which is a huge city, and a lot of things very, very funny happened to me while I was there because, while a lot of people had the perception of having a Mexican there, the perception of me being from Mexico, but they didn't know that I was coming from a big city. And so I can tell you a bunch of stories that happened to me while I was there. Also, the stereotype of being, Mexico, being from Mexico happened. And of course, I also had some stereotypes from people from Midwest, right? And so I think it was very funny to see how those stereotypes came along. And we both laughed because the stereotypes that we had, they were, very different. And while I was there, but I was able to go to school. I was able to have very good friends, very close friends that lasted basically all my life that I still have. And nowadays, I thank them for for receiving me there in their home, and to be able to be part of their lives, and I'm pretty sure they feel the same way towards me. And but yes, it's just a long story, Janice. How can I tell you? Is I think I mentioned that to you before, but I think that the cream of it is that after my years after my year in high school over there, I actually became prom king with my date in that time. So that was something very how can I put it, uh, very funny to me, and very good, and it's a very good experience, I could say.
Well, it's so special. And I know when you originally told me this story, I mean, I love it because, like you were saying, we have these stereotypes or these preconceptions about people, and it's so awesome just to see people for who they really are and not to judge a book by its cover. And I think this is a great story of that. Also, the fact that I know you were supposed to leave and go back to Mexico, and the school rallied around you, got signatures, got money so that you could stay for that last semester, become prom king. I mean, I just think this story is so amazing on the human level, you know, and of not judging people, and really getting to know each human as they are. So we're wrapping up this first segment, but tell us one thing that you learned. If you took a lesson from that trip that you had over in the United States early on, what's that one lesson that you learned?
So, man, I can tell you many of them. In those days, I remember that the what happens is that in that particular time, I was very, I just thought that it was not going to be possible for me to stay, because I had to pay money for it, and I had certain budget in that time, and also, of course, I was under a certain permit, and I thought for that particular case that I was gonna be able to actually do it, and then again, I thought it was pretty much impossible. But at the end, I was, people, as you mentioned, from the school helped me out. They had the right connections. They put me in touch with uh, I believe it was a congressman in the state of Indiana, and I also had the certain connections with the proper authorities in immigration, and they let me stay for for the rest of the year, and also the French club actually paid for that. So that was something that I always appreciated, because a certain time they collect the money to go to basically, in this particular case, it was the French club, so they wanted to go to France, and they collect the money. So instead of going actually to France, they actually put that money into the proceeds to go to the pay for my tuition. So I thought that was amazing, and something I just never asked for it, and they was something that came up from them, from the from this school, from this particular group of people, and I thought that was amazing. I have no words to even to now, just to grasp that idea in my mind is just incredible. And then, of course, I met some great teachers along the way who helped me. As I mentioned, the congressman, my host family, which was also a fantastic family to to be able to spend that time with them, and friends, and of course family members who helped me out. So altogether, I can in that time I thought it was going to be impossible to pull this off, and at the end I was able. So I would say that at a very young age, I was able to understand that it doesn't matter how big of a trouble you can see coming in front of you, and really just you have to let it go and see what happens, and just to have trust that things at the end it will work out. I think that was probably the biggest lesson that I have learned, and I learned it at a very young age. And since then, um, every time I do something that I see like an impossible thing to do, I just remember. I mean, nowadays, because I have bigger troubles ahead of me, I can probably put in perspective. The reason why I said this was a big lesson is because at that time that was my biggest challenge that I thought it was not going to be possible for me to overcome, and in certain time, in some other times, when I have a bigger challenge, I put that in perspective and I remember that experience. So always it was there for me to say, hey, listen, if on that time I was able to pull this off, I think I have enough tools nowadays to pull this off now. So I would say that was a big lesson for me, and also a big I would say a story of success, that it came to me in a very early age, so I can basically confront the world and confront my new challenges ahead of me.
That's it. Nothing is impossible. Stay right with us. We will be right back. We'll be right back with more insight, inspiration, and real conversations. This is Spanish Janice on Now Media Television. And we're back. I'm Janice Burt, and you're watching Spanish Janice. Let's keep growing together. Welcome back to Spanish Janice. We are here with Manuel Lozano, the one and only. And Manuel, we're going to talk a little bit about short-term rentals and the industry that you are in now. What is one misconception that you think people have, first of all, about this industry, short-term rentals? And well, first of all, explain it a little bit. Like, what are we talking about when we say short-term rentals? And then what's a misconception that people sometimes have?
So I think the biggest misconception in this industry, in this sector, part of the hospitality sector, is that they tend to believe that it's very, very easy to do. So a few years back, when people started on this, instead of actually, well, they were, as they begin to hear that it was possible to do short-term rentals, and Airbnb came along, which made the short-term rental industry as a mainstream. They thought it was going to be very, very easy to do, and I don't, in a certain way, they were right. I mean, it was a time that was possible to do it very easily. Nowadays, it's very impossible. There's a lot of competition. There is a lot of, I would say, companies that do this in a very professional way, and it's not like it used to. You have new regulations, you have taxes, you have so many things you have to handle, that I would say the biggest part that people is missing is that the fact that is not that easy anymore. It's not like putting your property on Airbnb and start making money. It's not like that anymore.
And so when I hear short-term rentals, a lot of times the first thing that pops into my head, and I know other people's, is Airbnb. Expand a little more on that. What are we not seeing that's out there besides Airbnb?
Yeah, there's many players nowadays. Airbnb, what happened? Well, first of all, vacation rental is something that has always been in the market. It's always been there. I'm pretty sure that when you were young, you went to, or at least in my case, my parents, when we had to go to, let's say, Acapulco, in those days, you would rent a house, and you would rent a house through the newspaper if you didn't want to have or arrive to a hotel. What happens with Airbnb is that they made the vacation rental more mainstream. In other words, they basically allow folks like having a second home to place it there to offer to the public, and that's when the market began to grow in a huge way. So the vacation rental segment always been there. Airbnb just make it more mainstream, and there are more plays into that. So you have Booking, you have Expedia, you have VRBO, you have HomeAway, different companies, different OTAs, they have joined into this sphere, and that what has made this industry grow over the years.
And if someone goes to your conference, what can they expect to find there? Like, why would somebody go to the conference?
So, first of all, my conference is one of the many conferences out there in the market. So you have conferences in the U.S., conferences in Europe, and nowadays, of course, conference in Mexico City. And basically, I would say each country has different levels of information, but each country is in different stages on what is happening in vacation rental. So what can I mean by that is, for instance, the US, it is definitely more, I would say that the level of information and the professionalization that has is very different from the one in Mexico, or Mexico is very different from other countries in South America, so or Central America. So what happens is that that's very important to say, because when I started all this, the level of professionalism that it was done in Mexico, or we used to have in Mexico, is very different from what it is now. And I'm talking about 8 years, 9 years later after I created my event. So basically, we're in a stage where the vacation rental in Mexico is more mature than it used to be 8 years ago, and now we're talking into topics about dealing with government regulations, technology, new technologies. But when we started all this, for instance, it was very rare to see a property manager who have technology as PMSs, whereas in the States, the technology has been there forever. So the key aspects of what we have right now, we find a more mature market, or more mature sector. We are more engaging with government in terms of getting or trying to reach agreements in terms of regulations. So basically, those are the main topics that we discuss in our conference: technology, how you can increase your revenue, and put you up to speed on what is happening in the market.
Now, I know you just said technology. As we know, AI is out there and exploding in ways that I think a lot of us didn't realize. How is AI affecting, or is it affecting your industry right now?
It is, I mean, people don't even realize it, but artificial intelligence is coming very, very big to this sector. So I remember 2 years ago when we were in Mexico City, I was introducing the artificial intelligence. I was bringing the news on what it was launched, and that time we would just ChatGPT. Nowadays, and I can tell you this, this year in specific, this year I've had 2 demos of technology, which just basically blew my mind. They have done it they have been created by property managers, and now is a huge technology. So these property managers companies, they have created a tool where all the 150 properties that they manage, they used to have a staff of almost 10 people to manage anything from communications with guests, anything from communications and dealing with vendors, anything that has to do with the cleaning of the properties. They had about 10 people who were running 150 properties. Nowadays, I seen it. I see the demo and just blew my mind. It was only one property manager, who was only one person behind the screen, and they had agents, artificial intelligent agents, dealing with guests, dealing with vendors, dealing with cleaning staff, dealing with everyone, handling anything from quotes to to change air conditioning, to basically manage all the properties in terms of cleaning, staffing, and anything that has to go around getting the property ready for the guests. It was just amazing. So just think about that. I mean, if you run a property management company, and you have all these divisions, and you have all this staff that needs that in the past you needed to basically run your business. We are in a point where that's going to change very, very dramatically, and you will need probably just one person to basically be after or take care of the artificial intelligence that it will be running this, and maybe eventually not even that person. So this is quite scary, and this is coming very, very strongly to this sector, and I would imagine to sectors such as the hotels as well, and some other industries.
Last question before we wrap up this segment. What do you feel about that? Like in your gut, when you think about AI coming and taking people's jobs, like how do you feel, and what's your advice to people for the future?
So it is scary because we just simply don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't think not even the government, the U.S. government, the Mexican government, or even in Europe knows what's going to happen. There's so many conversations out there about having this concept of universal income, but we're not quite there yet. I mean, I don't see this could happen anytime soon. And in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of people losing their jobs. A lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. So what type of advice I have, I just don't know, because I mean, frankly, I've been thinking that of myself. I mean, what's going to happen if artificial intelligence is going to be able to replace events, is going to be able to replace what we offer in my events, even for you. I mean, as an interviewer, and probably the artificial intelligence could do it that. So it's scary.
It definitely is. I've been thinking about this for myself as well. Stay with us, everybody. We will be right back, and we will solve all of the world's problems. We'll be right back with more insight, inspiration, and real conversations. This is Spanish Janice on Now Media Television. And we're back. I'm Janice Burt, and you're watching Spanish Janice. Let's keep growing together. Welcome back to Spanish Janice, where, like I said, we are solving the world's problems in real time with my guest, Manuel Lozano. We ended that last segment talking about artificial intelligence and what that means for the short-term rental industry as well as any other industry. So, Manuel, tell us a little bit more. Tell everybody what you told me on break about what we can do to kind of see the future for ourselves in our industries.
Well, that's something that I did, and just was wondering, because as I mentioned, I begin to see that any type of job, any type of career could be basically take over by artificial intelligence. And when you have been creating a business, you just simply don't know how far it will go. So one of the things that I did is actually, as I mentioned to you, just ask, ChatGPT or Claude or any other artificial intelligence tool, what do they think about what are the expectations, or what do they think about your business, and if it's going to survive artificial intelligence? And it will take you up front. If you ask them about careers, they can tell you, and also you can ask what careers can be strive or can be don't have any impact with the artificial intelligence. It will tell you. In my case, for instance, in terms of conferences and in terms of events like the ones that I organize, basically told me, don't get scared, but I think your events are going to be more about bringing people together. It's going to be is a huge advantage of yeah, doing what you do, because you basically bring people together in events, and the networking part is going to be more relevant. So people will probably, as I mentioned to you in my prior example, so you have artificial intelligence take over, an operation of thousands of units. But still, someone has to be the owner, someone has to make certain decisions. And your event is going to be about networking with all these people who make the decisions, who are the decisions makers in terms of a big operation. So our events eventually probably going to be more, are they going to be more towards that, networking with the right people rather than knowledge. Because eventually all these OTAs that I mentioned that I make 50, 60% or 70% of your income, they're gonna have tools of artificial intelligence, and that's gonna all that knowledge that we currently provide, and that usually is being provided through conferences, is gonna be very easy to get, either through artificial intelligence or through other tools. So the only thing that will matter probably is gonna be the networking.
Exactly. And the heart-centered, which is what I get excited about, instead of scared, because there is part of me that goes, oh my goodness, things could totally change. But there is something that in my soul where I go, you cannot replace that human connection, the heart-centeredness. So kind of moving from head to heart, because you're right, the knowledge is going to be there, the information is going to be there, and AI can do all that for you, but it can't replicate a human heart and soul and being. So along those lines, I want to talk a little bit about balancing our professional lives with our own health and wellness and self-care, and taking care of ourselves. I know you had mentioned to me that after your conferences, you take a break for yourself. Talk a little bit about the importance of doing that, what it is that you do to kind of unplug and give Manuel his energy back, and that self-care that we all need.
So I think it's very, very important, because otherwise you just basically just snap. I mean, there's so much tension around organizing this type of events. There's so much work behind it. A lot of people don't know it. I try to keep my staff, in a small amount, because otherwise it wouldn't be possible. But what I usually do is that after so many months and weeks of I would say pressure and trying to put everything together. And after the event is done, is usually you talk with a lot of people during those days, and you get sometimes very, very tired. I would say in your mind is having 2 to 3 days talking all the time, all day long, with so many people, so many languages, that you need to definitely take a break. So I usually, after my events, I wrap them up, I pay the bills and everything, and then I usually take like a 2 3 days time off. And the way I do it is just basically go to a place where not even my family goes, so I just go by myself and just rewind and just basically I like to walk in the nature, and just I usually go to places where there's no people. I go walk in the jungle. As I live in Quintana Roo, so I go to cenotes. I go to a beach where there's no people, and walk in the jungle. I just want to have 3 days for myself. So just to wrap it up, I would say that it is very important for you to, after you do something very important in your work, or you're being overloaded with a certain amount of pressure, to, after you finish your work and everything, just to unwind and do something that you love to do.
Super important, everybody. Take care of yourselves first before the burnout, before the, crazy stress just takes you over. Go to a jungle is a great idea. Go out in nature, breathe, connect back to yourself. And we will be right back with our very last segment with Manuel Lozano. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more insight, inspiration, and real conversations. This is Spanish Janice on Now Media Television. And we're back. I'm Janice Burt, and you're watching Spanish Janice. Let's keep growing together. Welcome back, mis amigos, to Spanish Janice. I am here with Manuel Lozano. Before we go any further, Manuel, can you tell everybody how they can find you, how they can find your conference, how they can go to your conferences? Let everybody know where they can find you.
Thank you, Janice. Yes, they can go to to the website and go to Expo Renta Vacacional, or www.exporv, Expo R as in Robert, V as in Victor.com.
Perfect. And I can tell you just from personal experience that they are amazing conferences. Everybody is not just learning things, but they are having fun. And actually, you do a great job of the networking already. So I'm sure that's just going to grow bigger and better. And in the last segment, we were talking about self-care, which I am a huge proponent of, that balance between our professional hustle and then the time that we need to take for ourselves, for centering, for relaxing. And I know with hospitality, it can probably feel like constant, urgent situations, maybe fires that need to be put out and you're always going. But what is one personal rule for you to stay calm and to stay centered when the business that you're in probably wants you to be reactive a lot of the time?
You mean in terms of the conference, or actually the business on property management?
I would say in the day-to-day with the business of it, and there's all of these tasks that have to be done, and they're usually urgent. What do you do to stay calm in those situations?
I think the best way to put it is just to try to do the best as you can in order to focus. You need to focus in 5 activities per day at the most, especially in the morning, and not to have your, my suggestion is delete social media from your phone. Don't use it. It's very distractive. If you need it because you need to run campaigns or something like that, just keep it in your desktop. But just try to focus on what is important. What I usually do is in the mornings, I try to come up with a list of 5 things that I want to achieve during the day and focus on those things. And then don't do anything on any other thing that what you're trying to achieve, those 5 things. And then if you have more time during the day, then of course you can do another list, but always try to focus, and the best way to do is with a list.
I love the lists. And I want to talk a little bit about leadership, because I know for you to put on the conferences and do what you do, you're in that leadership role. If you're explaining to somebody what makes a person a good leader, what are some of the characteristics? What are some of the things that you would say make a good leader? So
I think leadership is very different from a company to or varies from company to company and industry to industry. in my particular case, what I have learned is that you need to trust people, and you need to engage and work with people, and just try to come up with your point of view, and tell them where you want to go with that, and just step aside and let them work, and let them do the work. But it's very important to share your vision with them, and to I would say let them do their own thing. And you need to find also, of course, the right people to do it, because and the way you will find probably people which you thought that probably would be able to help you or will be able to do the job, and probably for whatever reason is not the right person. But you need to do that first step, to trust, and to let them know about your vision, and just do the follow up on that.
And speaking of vision, what is your vision for your company, for your conferences? Let's say in this upcoming year, do you have a vision? And if so, what is it for you?
So the vision about that I have, to be quite frank, in terms of my event, of what I do in terms of organizing and trying to professionalize the industry in vacation rental industry in Mexico, is really to have a unity among all the players, all the people who are part of this vacation rental industry. And I think we in a way we have achieved it. We have OTAs, we have the technology sector, we have property management, and we have professional hosts who want to be part of this industry and be part of it as a unit. So we can actually introduce ourselves to other important players in the industry and in the hospitality sector, which are authorities, which are governments, which are different sectors which play part on the hospitality industry in Mexico. So my vision is of a vision of unity, and a vision of professionalism that definitely deserves this industry for its growth in Mexico.
And I really do love that you have created something where people can come together, rub shoulders, network, collaborate, help each other. I love that you've done that, and I know it's a lot of work. So I just want to say, congratulations on doing such a good job and sticking with it. Year after year after year. How many years has it been now?
8 years. I mean, we started with this, initially we planned it back in, I think it was 2000, what's this, 17, 16. And from there, the first event was in 2019.
That is so exciting. Now, to wrap up and to give a takeaway to our audience and the listeners, if you were to give them, here's your next right move challenge, the next best thing that they can do if they're in this industry, short-term rentals, what is one action that they can take, let's say in the next month, that would move them forward?
Wow, that's a good question, because again, it really depends on what market you are in. So I beginning to see that probably the market is going to slow down due to current economic conditions and political conditions, what is happening worldwide. So there are times where definitely you want to prepare for growth, and there's times that you need to prepare for slowdown. You cannot, there are economic cycles, and they just go up and down, and you have to have a trend of upwards. But now we're in a trend that I see, that I'm beginning to see, that is actually going down, despite the fact that the World Cup, the soccer World Cup, is coming to Mexico, the States, and Canada. I begin to see a trend that probably not a lot of people are gonna feel comfortable about traveling. I think is something that's gonna happen in the next year or so. So you need to be prepared for that. There is nothing we can do other than do our best effort to, bring people to our properties, to bring people to our events. And I think the best way is just basically to prepare it of economic slowdown and see how it goes, because you need to be prepared for things that you don't want, of course, but there's not much we can do about it. So just basically prepare for it. I would say that's like in the short term. Now, towards the long term, I think things will improve as they always do, and you need also to be prepared for that. And what is coming, artificial intelligence, get ready for that. Get ready for optimize your operations. Be ready for more, I would say, competition in your sector. So that's something that is naturally, I think, is going to happen, soon. So my best advice is just to get ready to whatever trends you're beginning to feel and see.
Get ready, everybody. Things are changing as they always do. I just want to thank my amazing guest, Manuel Lozano, for joining me today. And if you would like to hear more real conversations on business, leadership, and wellness, keep up with Spanish Janice on Now Media TV. We are on the app, we're on demand, we're streaming live, we're everywhere you are. Thank you once again, Manuel, and everybody. Go out there and be prepared. Take those steps for the future that is coming fast. Thanks, everybody.